Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of sirens slicing through the sky like blades. Your child is sleeping beside you. You clutch him by the arms, unsure if this will be your last hug. In the distance, an explosion rattles the windows, and the taste of fear invades your mouth like hot dust. This is the reality for thousands of people in the Middle East. But what if I told you that all this could knock on your door too? From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from the silence of the bunkers to the noise of the burning streets, the conflict between Iran and Israel is more than a war between governments. It's an invisible battle that spans decades, burning through the veins of religion, politics, and survival. It's a story that didn't begin now and that may never end. The world is on the brink of something bigger. But before you understand where we are, you need to feel where it all began. Did you know that there's a group in Iran called the Quds Force, trained to operate outside the country, which has been accused of masterminding attacks on 5 continents? Did you know that, in response, Israel has a secret intelligence unit called the Mossad, which has performed surgical operations in the heart of Iran, eliminating nuclear scientists in broad daylight? And what do these acts hide? Revenge, defense, or something much deeper, much darker? Tensions between the two countries have escalated to such a point that today, a missile launched by mistake could trigger a war of catastrophic proportions. And while leaders give speeches in air-conditioned palaces, mothers bury their children in silence, markets plummet, refugees pile up at the borders, and fear spreads like smoke on the wind. Is the world paying attention? The media shows rockets, explosions, protests. But behind all this, there's something no one wants to face. This war isn't just theirs, it's ours too. It affects the fuel you put in your car, the food that reaches your table, the stability of the planet you call home. And maybe, just maybe, it's closer than you think. Get ready. In the next few minutes, we'll unearth the roots of this conflict, expose what's been hidden, and show you why this story could change the fate of us all. Now take a deep breath, because what comes next isn't easy to hear, but it's necessary. It all begins even before the word Israel echoed powerfully on the global stage. Come back with me to the end of World War II. Millions of Jews were killed, persecuted, and exterminated in Nazi concentration camps. A profound trauma, an open wound in the heart of humanity. And like a scar, came the creation of a state. In 1948, Israel was born, and with it, a conflict that would drag like a shadow over the entire Middle East. But what about Iran? It seemed distant from this, until it wasn't. In the 1950s, Iran was still a Persian kingdom ruled by a Western-aligned Shah. It had oil, it had money, but it also had people suffering in the streets, forcibly silenced. In 1979, everything changed. The Islamic Revolution exploded like a bolt of lightning. The Shah fled, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini seized power, and a new Iran was born, theocratic, radical, with an inflammatory rhetoric against the great Satan, the United States, and the little Satan, Israel. And therein lies the breaking point. Iran no longer recognizes Israel's existence, not as a political disagreement, but as a complete denial. For Tehran, Israel simply shouldn't exist. And it's not just rhetoric. Iran begins funding armed groups that share this hatred: Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, militias in Iraq, Houthis in Yemen. Iranian influence spreads like poisonous roots throughout the region. But Israel would not stand idly by. As Iran advanced in the development of its nuclear program officially for peaceful purposes, according to Tehran, Israel saw an existential threat, a bomb in the hands of a government that openly declares its desire to destroy Israel. This was not something Tel Aviv would be willing to allow. And so begins the dirty game of espionage, secret attacks, silent assassinations, and laboratory sabotage. Between 2010 and 2012, at least 5 Iranian nuclear scientists were killed in mysterious attacks. A car bomb here, a motorcycle gunman there, a laboratory in flames elsewhere. Iran blames Israel. Israel, as always, neither confirms nor denies. The world watches in silence. But behind this silence, the wheels of war grind on. Meanwhile, the us comes and goes like a piece on this board. One day an ally of Iran during the Shah's time, the next, sworn enemies. One day, protector of Israel, the next, broker of agreements. In 2015, the world witnessed the signing of the nuclear agreement between Iran and Western powers. Hope, perhaps. But when the US withdrew from the pact in 2018, under the Trump administration, everything collapsed again. Iran resumed uranium enrichment. Israel sounded alarms again, and tensions escalated again as if nothing had happened. But make no mistake, this isn't just a dispute over territory or weapons, it's a profound clash of worldviews. A country that declares itself a Jewish state facing off against another that proclaims itself an Islamic republic, a nation that sees itself as an island of freedom in the Middle East, versus another that sees itself as a bastion of resistance to imperialism. There's no consensus here, only confrontation, no dialogue, only distrust. And what began as an ideological dispute now smacks of all-out war. But before you go any further, stop and think, how many wars, how many treaties, how many lives have been lost because of a belief, a flag, a name on a map? How many more will die? In a refugee camp in southern Lebanon, an Iranian mother cries, clutching a dirty blanket, in which her baby was wrapped just hours ago. The explosion that hit the village destroyed half the houses and, with them, half the families. No one appeared on television to talk about it. It didn't make headlines in the newspapers. But this is the war no one talks about. The war that has no uniform, but leaves its mark on every civilian face. As Israeli drones fly over Gaza, and Iranian missiles cross the Syrian desert, the world watches from afar, as if this conflict were part of another planet. But the truth is its impact reaches your doorstep and faster than you might think. Gasoline prices soar every time there's an attack. Global inflation responds to each new sanction imposed, and even the bread you buy at the grocery store may have gone up in price because of the tension between these two countries. Israel maintains its Iron Dome defense system, a rocket-intercepting technology that amazes the world. But it also represents the constant fear that something will come from the sky. In Tel Aviv, children trained to evacuate classrooms in under 15 seconds. In Tehran, young people are raised to believe that Israel is Islam's #1 enemy. There is no childhood when you grow up under threat, only preparation for the next explosion. And it's not just governments that clash. The conflict fuels radicalism on both sides. Each death generates a reaction. Each reaction generates more hatred. And in this cycle, those who suffer most are the innocent. In 2022, the world watched as protests in Iran exploded following the death of Mahsa Amini, a young woman allegedly killed for not wearing the Islamic veil properly. Israel watched from afar, but radicals saw an opportunity to blame the external enemy for internal instability, the perfect smokescreen. On the other hand, Israel is also experiencing its own internal abyss. Tensions between Jews and Arabs within the country are intensifying. Protests against judicial reforms, accusations of authoritarianism, and the growing radicalization of politicians and society. And the question that hangs in the air is, who, after all, is in control? Amidst all this, the US remains a key player, financing Israel, trying to contain Iran, but also fueling the war machine with weapons, secret treaties, energy interests, and calculated diplomacy. And Europe, it's torn between historical guilt over the Holocaust, which leads it to support Israel, and the need to maintain relations with Iran for oil and fear of new migration flows. Who loses in the end? You already know, it's the Lebanese fishermen, who can no longer go to sea because mines are floating off the coast. It's the Israeli child who refuses to sleep far from the bomb shelter. It's the young Iranian who dreamed of being a teacher but was called to fight in Syria. It's the silence of a generation that doesn't know peace and perhaps never will. And meanwhile, peace agreements are torn up in offices, treaties are forgotten, and speeches on international platforms are repeated as if delivered by robots. No one listens, no one acts. But the blood continues to flow. And perhaps what's most frightening is that this pain doesn't seem to have an end. What if what we've seen so far is just the beginning? What if tomorrow, when you turned on the news, you saw a headline that read, Israel strikes Iranian nuclear plant? What if, in response, Iran rained down missiles on Tel Aviv? What if, in less than 24 hours, the United States and NATO powers were drawn into the conflict? What about China? What about Russia? You wouldn't be watching a regional conflict anymore. You'd be facing a world war. It may seem like alarmism, but this hypothesis is, right now, in military simulations by global powers. Iran is just weeks, days away from enriching uranium to levels that would allow the construction of an atomic bomb. Israel has already declared that it will not allow this to happen. This is not a generic threat. It's a red line. A line that, if crossed, could set the planet ablaze. The possible scenarios are terrifying. In the first, Israel acts preemptively, a surgical strike, like the one it carried out on Iraq in the 1980s and Syria in 2007, destroying nuclear facilities, But today's Iran is not like yesterday's targets. It has armed allies throughout the region: Hezbollah in the north, Hamas in the south, Shiite militias in Iraq, Houthis in Yemen. One strike could trigger them all simultaneously. In the second scenario, Iran decides to act first. Test a long-range missile. Hit a symbolic target in Israel. Send a drone carrying an explosive charge to an American ship in the Persian Gulf. Within minutes, global stock markets plunge, oil prices soar, and nations panic. And then the question arises: who can stop this avalanche? In a third scenario, the darkest of all, the conflict escalates to the point where chemical, biological, or even tactical nuclear weapons are used. It wouldn't be the first time that desperate leaders make unthinkable decisions. Hiroshima is a good example. And if you think this doesn't affect you, remember COVID. A pandemic paralyzed the world for 2 years. Imagine what a nuclear war would do. And even the diplomatic path seems increasingly clouded. Negotiations between Iran and Western powers have stalled. Israel is wary of any concessions. Iran demands an end to the economic sanctions that suffocate its population, and civilians always civilians pay the price for the decisions of men in rooms where the sound of bombs is silent. Iranian youth cry out for freedom, but their voices are muffled by a regime still living by the codes of the 1980s. In Israel, young people serve in the army right after high school, not by choice, but by necessity. Living in a country under constant threat demands preparation, obedience, and trauma. And when one side radicalizes, the other responds. When an Iranian general is killed, 3 new ones emerge. When a school in Gaza is attacked, 100 orphans are born with rage in their eyes. The cycle continues, and the abyss grows ever closer. And here, perhaps, lies the most important question: who will break this cycle? Is there a limit to the pain, or will we all be swept away by it? An Iranian boy holds a slingshot, his target a drone hovering in the sky like a metallic bird of death. He doesn't understand geopolitics, Zionism, theocracy, oil, or sanctions. He only knows that his brother died 2 months ago, crushed by the rubble of a home he loved. On the other side, in Israel, a 12-year-old girl paints butterflies on the walls of the bomb shelter. She smiles, as if it were normal, and maybe it is, because when fear is routine, war becomes part of childhood. And is this what we're accepting? Throughout this documentary, we explore the darkest alleys of a seemingly endless conflict. We discuss leaders, strategies, betrayals, and vested interests. But deep down, none of this matters more than one simple truth: these are people dying. People of flesh, blood, and soul, families who love, suffer, hunger, have faith, and above all, just want to live. This is the side of war that never reaches us in its entirety. It's easy to turn off the TV, close the video, and move on. But can we really ignore it? Don't we realize that every conflict of this kind is like a dirty mirror of what humanity refuses to clean? Every time we accept the us versus them rhetoric, every time we believe there is a people better or more worthy than another, we are feeding this same machine that today destroys Tehran, Gaza, Tel Aviv, Beirut, and tomorrow it could destroy the world. It's not about choosing sides, it's about seeing everyone, about hearing the cries that don't make it to the cameras, about understanding that behind every waving flag, there are hearts breaking. There are no heroes on a battlefield, only survivors, and sometimes not even that. This isn't a script designed to offer comfort. There are no happy endings here. It's a script meant to nudge you, to make you emerge from this experience carrying a question that may have no answer. Have we learned anything, or are we just, once again, repeating everything, all over again? Perhaps there's still time. Perhaps the world needs fewer weapons, and more bridges. Perhaps it's not too late to look at others with less hatred and more empathy. But while leaders gamble with the lives of millions, the only weapon we have left is conscience. And now, it's up to you. If this video touched you, in any way, share it, spread it, ask questions, because silence is war's greatest ally.